Hey guys, what's up? This is Dusty. We're going to be kind of starting a new series that I hope will hopefully be carrying forward to this the rest of the season. For now, I'm calling this Dusty's Breakdowns. I'm hoping for a better name. It's kind of like Baldy's Breakdowns, but I guess I'm not as good as Brian Baldinger. So the fact that it's a dumber name is probably apt. That's probably fine. But if you guys have better names, that's cool. So just kind of as a test run here, I'm kind of looking at some plays from Packers history. I'm hoping to carry this forward through the season, and every now and then kind of popping up with more of a video breakdown instead of a written breakdown. So the play we're going to be looking at today is this kind of iconic, at least in Packers lore, and probably very depressing in terms of Cowboys lore. Pass from Aaron Rodgers to Richard Rodgers in the divisional round of the 2014 playoffs. Just to give a little context, this is about 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Packers were down 21-20. Spoiler alert, Packers actually scored a touchdown here, which I know, shocker. They end up winning the game. This is the game-winning touchdown here. And the down and distance, we got first and 10 from the 13. So I kind of want to talk about how this play happened, how this worked, and we'll just kind of go from there. So I kind of want to talk about some of this. I'm going to kind of run it here, and then we'll talk about what the Packers are doing, what the routes they're running, and kind of what the defense looks like from a Cowboys perspective. So we've got this. We've got Corliss over here running a pivot route. We've got Richard Rodgers come right off the end of the line, kind of running a deep crosser. We've got Jordy Nelson running a a post corner. Devontae Adams running a shallow dig route, and Randall Cobb in the flat from the backfield. Randall Cobb in the backfield. I loved all the versatility I can do with this. So I love this. We've got this Nelson Adams. I'm not going to get into it right now, probably later. But they're kind of working a smash concept over here. It's kind of you got this high-low read. Depending on what the defenders do, you got this two-man game. Depending on what they do, you can throw that corner or you can throw just a quick in route. One thing I want to talk about before we kind of move any further is just the defensive alignment we got here. This looks like off the bat, and we'll get into it kind of as it goes on, but this looks like we got this too high, looks like kind of cover two. It's tough to tell from these corners. Generally, if the corners are playing straight up, which you can't really see here, I guess they're kind of angled. If they're playing straight up, this kind of man. If they're angled, it's kind of looking at kind of zone, kind of like a zone coverage. And the reason for that is if you're playing man, you want to be able to react wherever the receiver goes, where if they're angled, you kind of think zone because you're kind of funneling towards these guys up here. So if they're kind of angled, you can see that kind of step there by both of these guys. And so that kind of looks like that kind of looks like they're playing zone. Which what this says to me is you've got these two guys up here. This is a two deep look. With these two guys here, that's cover two. With these two guys, you can maybe see signaling zone. That's quarters, and what that means. If we're looking at quarters, is each guy each guy has like a deep zone. Is quarters, which means that the field is divided into quarters. And so this guy would have this deep fourth, this guy would have this fourth, and blah 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 blah. So that's kind of how this is looking pre-snap. This is kind of how this is shaking out, and we're gonna roll it here. And we're gonna look at kind of how that changes as it goes and what that means for the rest of the rest of the play. All right, so we're seeing immediately post snap, and this guy here that looked like a deep defender in the quarters is sneaking down. This is what's called robber. He's playing a robber position. So we're not actually looking at quarters. These guys are. You can see these guys here that are playing the zone. You've got these guys turned, and you've got this guy deep. So we got cover three. This guy has a third. This guy has a third. And this guy's a third. And this guy's sneaking down. So it's this is robber. So he's playing the robber position, kind of a sneak. It's a trick. And so he's kind of sneaking down into there while the rest of the team does cover three, and then you also have these two guys kind of dropping back. So you've got this kind of this zone look, this cover three zone look, and Rodgers is looking here immediately. It's his first look is over at Corliss, and you've got this guy dropping down. So hey, that's not going to work. So we're going to see kind of how else this works. Oh, and I don't know. I did mention the you got the voids in the middle. So if you're doing cover two, you got like or even quarters. Your voids, your deep voids are going to be where, kind of where those seams meet. So like a cover two or even a two deep look, your void's going to be kind of there, kind of right in the middle. Whereas cover three, it changes. It's between if you've got this guy playing a third, that guy playing a third, that guy playing a third. Your voids are kind of more up the seam than they are in the middle. Which that comes into play here. That's going to be very important here. So I should have mentioned at the top. I apologize. Okay, so as we get going here, pocket starts breaking down. Rodgers immediately looks over to Cobb. Again, it's first down. He's just looking to pick up some yards. But you've got this highlighted in red here. You've got this defensive end kind of pushing a little bit, enough to where Rodgers doesn't feel comfortable making that pass, or else it probably gets knocked down. So he has to pull up from that. But that is his first look after kind of stuff starts breaking down. So this is where stuff starts getting interesting. This is where some of the defensive alignment stuff that I was talking about earlier kind of comes into play. So you get these two linebackers that were dropping deep immediately. Rodgers breaks, and there's no one over here. This guy's kind of looking at it, but there's no one over here. You can see all this area over here, and Rodgers, you have to kind of respect his athleticism, and so he's got all this room. And so both these guys react to it, which is going to play into it because these guys are not drop deep anymore. Now, the other interesting thing to look at here is this deep defender here. As we just talked about, his cover three, which means he's got this third of the field. He's looking at Richard Rodgers crossing here. Richard Rodgers has an angle on his defender, but this guy can't just bail. And the reason he can't just bail is because, again, cover three. This is his third of the field. And Corliss right here, you can kind of see how this looks right here. If Corliss were to, say, break up the field and this guy, this defender here, breaks toward Richard Rodgers, there's no one back there because this man has abandoned his post. So he is standing in his post. He is playing cover three. So even though he sees Richard Rodgers crossing, that's pretty good coverage right there. And this guy cannot defend his post. And if he comes over that area, he's going to deal with it. And so that's kind of what we're dealing with here. He's kind of working that void in between there. And so we're going to watch what happens here as it goes. Now Rodgers is getting ready to throw. Right here, you can see him getting ready to throw. I highlighted this guy just because one of the things I always like to look at, and we'll see in the next angle, it doesn't really come into play that much. But the underneath coverage really plays a big point of this. If this guy's a little bit further over, that throw has to go higher, which gives the defense more of a time to react. Ultimately, it's tough to tell from this angle. Ultimately, he's got an angle here to throw, but this is something to consider. You've got these kind of underneath that is a deep dropping guy that you may have to consider getting it over if he's over a little bit. So I wanted to highlight that. I also want to highlight, again, you've got the coverage here. You got Richard Rodgers working here, and in a cover three, again, this area here you're looking at, man, that's kind of your void right there. So this defender right here, he's kind of keeping an eye on Corliss, but he also sees Richard Rodgers over here because cover three. So he's got keeping an eye on all things, and that allows Richard Rodgers to kind of work that open area right here. So we're going to play the rest of it here, and we're going to watch Richard Rodgers or Aaron Rodgers complete this pass to Richard Rodgers in the end zone for a ridiculous touchdown. So we're going to watch the other angle here. So what we have from the coaching angle, you have what's called all 22, which is what we just saw, which you see all 22 players at the time, which is just incredibly helpful. I find it impossible to judge the entire team, especially defense, wide receivers, anything that doesn't take place by the line of scrimmage. It's tough to judge without that stuff. But you also have this angle here, which is a couple things about this. One of the things I like about this, you get the line play. So you can kind of see how the defensive line reacts. The other thing is, from plays like this, it's a different angle, and it's just kind of cool. It's kind of cool to watch this throw from this angle. And so, I get to evaluate and I also get to see some cool stuff every now and then. So we're going to watch the play from this angle, and everything we just saw, you can kind of see how everything reacts. And you can see this window right here. It's not much. This defender was on Richard Rodgers' hip the whole time, and you can see him. He's got his hand on him right there. And this is the defender here that was in that deep third that we were just talking about that has come over. And so even though he kind of stayed with Corliss, this is, sometimes I think it's really easy to complete a pass in the NFL, and then other times I don't know how it's possible. This is one of the times I don't know how it's possible, because we just watched that other angle where this guy here was sticking over this deep third on Corliss, didn't really react until the ball was almost in the air, and seemed pretty far away by then, and is still just right there. That is a tight window to throw that in. So we got a couple things going on. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's incredible. He's amazing. So you've got that going on. He's kind of rolling to his left and throwing across his body, which most people should never do. But we've also got Richard Rodgers kind of working in that void in a cover three zone that looked like quarters at the beginning. If this was quarters, this pass isn't complete because you've got a man in that zone. This is different. That ball has to be released earlier when it's in a different void, or not released at all, or that's in a step to the fact this is cover three. And you had Corliss on that side holding that deep third man in place as long as he did. That's crucial to the success of this play. The fact that Corliss is over there, that deep third had to keep an eye on Corliss, which was late getting to Richard Rodgers, was such a huge deal. So all those things combined, game-winning playoff touchdown. It's not easy to do it. So that's it. That's what I've got on this play. That's what I got for this week. I'm not sure how often I'm going to be doing this. I don't know if I'm ever do another one again. I don't know. We're going to see how this goes and what the reaction is. But I hope you all enjoyed this as a look back at the at this game-winning touchdown against the Cowboys. And yeah, please let me know if there's anything, if you've got any feedback or anything you want to see. I've got a couple other plays maybe lined up. We'll see what happens during the season. If you like it, let me know. If you hate it, I guess also let me know. But yeah, I appreciate you all watching, and hopefully you tune in another time. Thank you so much. You can follow me. I may be posting this other places. You can follow me on Twitter at Dusty Evely, which I'd appreciate, and I'll be doing some breakdowns all throughout the season. So thank you so much, and I guess I'll see you next time.